Yeah, hey, Wood-psyche here. Hope everyone's doing okay. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate that. Appreciate anyone new to the channel as well. Today we're going to be covering basics of the eyes, starting off with the eyes. That's how I always start off. So that's the first in a three-part series again. I've covered these before, but I'm going to try a different approach this time in case people have problems following the previous videos I've done. Maybe make it more self-explanatory. And I always use a spherical burr starting off. That's just my preference. You could use other types of burrs if you want. Like people use flame burrs all the time. And I'll give you a reason why I use a spherical burr. Main reason is it doesn't leave any harsh delineations between the surfaces. It's all smooth and doesn't create like sharp edges and stuff, which is not what I want right off initially. So that'll come later when you start putting details in. But like I said, everyone's got their own methods of doing things, but this is the way I do it. And I found it works out pretty well for me. And always mark off areas that I just define the exact location of the anatomy, like for instance the eyes right here. So we're gonna make sure that we don't lose sight of the positioning. And then I always work my way down to smaller diameter burrs. And as you noticed, I use the spherical burr as well quite often, even in the intermediate process. But the main thing when you're working with eyes is to realize that the eye is a sphere. So when you create the eyes, you're creating a sphere, but you have eyelids covering the sphere as well. So you got to keep that in mind. So you got the upper eyelid and then the lower eyelid that covers the eyeball. So like underneath that, just imagine like a small golf ball or something like that, or a grape, for instance, something round. Could help visualize it better. And then the corners of the eyes are always going to be pushed back farther in. And then in the middle of the eye, it's like sticks out farther than the rest. So, and then also the bottom eyelid's always going to be tucked in underneath the top part of the eyelid as well. So that's something to keep in mind. So like just imagine the top of the eyelid drapes over the bottom of the eyelid on the corners a little bit. So if you have that in mind, it makes things a lot easier as far as I'm concerned. And then I always start off with a narrow slit for the eye because I could always expand it open, make it wider. And then you can add like the pupil in there and then add some color to the iris as well. When you're doing this type of work, you don't want to like over remove material, because if you do, you're pretty much have to change it around or start all over again, which is not a very good idea because of all the time you put into it. So it's critical in the early stages that you don't over remove material and find out that you regret it later on. But yeah, I switch over between a lot of tools I'm using right now. I'm using the Dremel Stylo Plus for the smaller details, and it works really well because it's almost like a pen in your hand, and you don't have to have any mobility issues. Like when you're using a regular Dremel, you got some encumbrance with the bulkiness of the machine and also as well as the cord. But the Dremel tools, the larger ones are good for the initial stages, obviously, when you want to remove your larger amounts of material. Yeah, it's a gradual process, and you start off with the rough out, which we've kind of passed already. Now we're working on the intermediate stage, getting into details. And this is where the Stylo Plus really comes through. But the only downside of the Stylo Plus is it's got low torque. I'm tempted to get something like a micro motor, which Jordy Johnson and Jessica Robb use quite a bit. It's got the high RPMs, so you got the power there. But with this tool is more relegated for engraving and light duty work. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse over again with this revelation, but I just want to put it out there in case anyone didn't catch it in the previous videos. Yeah, here's a type of burr I use quite often because it does a really good job of detail work. It's a smaller style forney burr, carbide burr, and I use it to work around the eyes mostly, shaping the eyelids and the opening of the eye as well. It comes in handy, and it doesn't leave a rough surface behind it, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I hit the piece with some wire wool and occasional sandpaper just to give me the idea of the outcome, what it's going to look like beforehand. Kind of like a sneak peek thing. But the wire wool can be a little abrasive, even to your fingers, so you got to be mindful. But this video is coming to an end in a little bit here, so I just wanted to point out that there will be a follow-up video, 2 more of them after this one, and the second one's going to be the nose, and then the final one will be the mouth, the third one. So they'll be coming out relatively in rapid succession, the videos, so you won't have to like wait around too much. It shouldn't take too long for me to put these things together. So that being said, leave comments if you have questions. I always try to answer them as much as possible in a timely fashion. And share, like, and subscribe, obviously. It helps the channel. It's always good to view your results from multiple angles to make sure you got everything done correctly. You don't want to have a eyeball that's too flat or anything like that. You want to give it some more dimension, possibly by pushing it in farther in the corners. And when you give details to the eyelid, it always brings out your eyes a little better too. Gives them a more realistic look. You could put wrinkles in there and stuff too if you want to go even farther than that. But for the most part, I would look at pictures a lot. Obviously, that's a good thing to do. Reference material always helps. So, like, we'll be posting the next video shortly, like I mentioned here, probably within a few days, I'd say, and then the third and final one thereafter. I got some other plans for these other videos I'm working on. I'm trying to do multiple videos at the same time, which kind of gets sketchy, but you know, we're in a multitasking world these days, so we gotta be on top of our game. So until then, thanks for stopping by. We'll check you out later.